in a nutshell, in one statement to the business stakeholders, what is really important about the data. And that all really gets to the final word of trust, right? Being able to trust that data
Right.
that's powering the analytics, and therefore, have your customers trust the products that you're producing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's a great role and a great opportunity for somebody like yourself to be in a company where that is the sort of the mantra, and that it's well understood. Most organizations are, however, in a struggle to really understand the investment required and the reason why they should support this role of the Chief Data and Analytics Officer, and the marriage of the two is really key. And I think I want to ask you a little bit about your perspective on the pandemic, obviously sitting in how that's influencing the value of the digital asset. Then I'll throw out a scenario that I just paint a picture around, and you can comment on it. But you're sitting in New York, and obviously New York had both challenges early in the pandemic, and that drove everyone home out of those beautiful buildings that are monuments to innovation and creativity in the city. One of my favorite places to be is the city. But also into a world where data became increasingly truly, for even companies not similar to yourself, the lifeblood, the free flow of that data, the ability to push it through digital channels to empower associates who actually do business function delivery within the organization, engaging with customers and stakeholders outside of the organization in a touchless, really sort of insights empowered world. What's your point of view on the readiness that your industry had accomplished with regard to data, the sharing of data and insights to enable the pivot to a digital New York City, and that was a remote and virtual working city? And if you could look into the sort of crystal ball of pontification about the future, what role do you see that data and analytics is going to play in the return to the new normal? We're never going to go back to the old one, I don't think, but because we've learned so much in the digital landscape. So I know I said a lot there, but it's the pandemic. And so what do you see as being those key factors that will enable success in this new landscape?
It's certainly, Mark, there is a lot in it. So I'll try to bootstrap into the answer. So first, I think there's a data question, there is a technology question.
Correct.
And I think it's almost like, talking about cars and talking about highways. Like, so if in my analogy, data is car, then it's like, technology, the highway, to actually enable that cars to actually get from point A to point B.
I love that.
So with I just came up with that. So with respect to technology, like, selfishly, I actually thought it was this pandemic, there's always silver lining. It was a great equalizer. And so Morningstar is a very Chicago headquartered company. It was founded in Chicago, and essentially most of the executive team is located in Chicago. I was the first, perhaps, senior hire who hasn't sort of got on the plane and moved to Chicago. And through my entire career, I always worked for a New York headquartered company. Lehman Brothers, very New York based. BlackRock, incredibly New York based. So I had this luxury of always being in the headquarters. Our time zone was central, and all conversations were in the conference room, where I was at the mothership, and then there are a few faces on the screen. Right. Now, for the first time in my career, everybody was in the conference room, and I was the face on the screen. And it took quite a bit of adjustment for me to realize I actually have to make an effort to be heard. Pandemic, in a way, kind of equalized everybody, where it's all this, everybody is the face on the screen.
Right.
So I think it created quite a bit of symmetrical attitude towards information exchange. And I think the other aspect that I've seen with pandemic is the notion of, you can sit in the trading desk, and I spent quite a few years on the trading desk, and you can stretch your right hand or your left arm and touch the shoulder of the person sitting next to you, and ask them to look over your shoulder and help you with something. It's much harder to do remotely. So a 30-second conversation over somebody's desk becomes a 30-minute Zoom call scheduled 2 weeks in advance. By the time you get to the Zoom call, you even forgot what you wanted to ask. So there is this velocity of information exchange that pandemic kind of took away, which we need to compensate. And I think the way to compensate it is come up with a more creative way of sharing information. So what I've seen people do quite effectively is they record videos of how to. So the things that you would normally say, like, hey, can you show me how you do X, Y, and Z? Or there's this two numbers that don't match, and I have no idea why they do not reconcile. People do this research. They snip it, they record it, they edit, and just send it to people, which is fantastic because folks in India, folks in China, folks in Romania, folks in Seattle can actually see it in addition to one person who's looking over your shoulder. So I think pandemic kind of forced us to come up quickly with creative ways of creating more highways, if you will, to send our data to make it more readily available.
That's interesting because but also the implication of that is that now you're creating this whole new body of knowledge or set of information that in and of itself maybe should be cataloged and made available in a reusable way from a glossary point of view for people who want to search and look for those tips and tricks that have been already pioneered. And so there's an opportunity to really get additional value out of the digitization of what used to just be a conversation that evaporated.
Which forces us to be more organized in terms of catalogs and scheduling and organization and discoverability of data. And those are all the things that you need to do anyway. But historically, it's been more of a nice to have. It's it's good hygiene. It's kind of good, but it's it's not necessary. It's even if you don't clean up your bedroom, your house is still standing. Now, you must clean up your bedroom because otherwise there's no way you'll find what you need because there's no Billy or Sally who normally sit next to you to ask the question. Yes, so you have to be able to go and search it. So creating those catalogs and creating stronger discipline around data storage and data discoverability and data dictionaries become a necessity, and all of a sudden everybody's doing it.